So being, I was born in Oak Cliff, raised in Oak Cliff. My father's family was raised in Oak Cliff, and being that my name is Ples Montgomery IV, I come from 3 generations of Ples Montgomerys that were raised in the Oak Cliff area in the southern sector of Dallas. So one of the first things I experienced after high school and leaving the state to go to another state was how they when you told somebody you were from Dallas, the first thing they would ask is, "Oh, are you from Oak Cliff?" And if you said yes, this crazy kind of look would come across everybody's face, like, "Oh, like we know about Oak Cliff." I'm like, how could you possibly know anything about Oak Cliff? Like, you from Florida, or you from Georgia or Montana or wherever. And this is at Florida A&M, so it's a very diverse array of people. But everywhere you go outside of Texas, when you say you're from Dallas, people want to know if you're from Oak Cliff. Like that has this definition, this defining characteristic to it. So one of my things was always to break that kind of negative, and honestly, it was a negative stigma. So one of my things was always to be more like, to not live up to whatever that negative stigma that they had in mind, so that the next time somebody told them they was from Oak Cliff, they wouldn't have that same idea about the neighborhood. It would mean something. It would mean something more, something better, after the fact. So that's what it means to me. That's why we incorporated the name Oak Cliff into this nonprofit. It has been my home. It has a very diverse and deep, rich history as it relates to the city of Dallas, that a lot of people don't know about. I've had to learn about it because it's not something that's really taught. When people think about Oak Cliff now, it's nothing like the way that it started. And as you and I both know, like, we're in a new transition of what Oak Cliff is going to be.
People living in this community, and myself growing up, not having access to the right amount of nutrients, fresh, organic, if not just basic quality, if nothing else, that is a deficiency on my emotional, my social, my physical, my mental. Everything about me is going to be deficient because I have not been able to nourish myself. My attitude will be quick. I will have I will get colds. I will be susceptible to disease. I will be weak. So I think that when these strategic plans happen where we don't have the access, it does help the medical industry a lot, because it's guaranteed that this will be a deficiency in some way, shape, or form, and which also means I can't learn at school, and that I'm not going to sit still, and that I'm always going to be thinking about food. So now obesity. Yeah, you're eating the wrong things, but I'm still always thinking about food, because I'm never going to be secure in the fact that I can go get what I need when I need it. And I'm also having to buy in bulk, and my household might not be the best thing for my household, for us to have regular access, or, bulk items from Walmart or Sam's or something like that. But living over here, I remember me being the only person in a little community of maybe a few houses that had a phone and a car. So people would knock on the door and call for rides to go to Walmart and things of that nature. I used to have a cordless phone. I would give, the cordless phone to whoever. They would make their calls. They would knock on the door and set it back down and go on. If they couldn't make it work or whatever, they'd be like, you think you can run me up here? And I said, well, shoot, I'm already going over. I got to go get Mr. Arthur stuff. I'm about to go get Mr. Mason stuff. Yeah, we can run up there. So it became this community thing that I already understood was deficient. I didn't already understand. I understood it was deficient, and then when I came back, I was like, wow, this is the space I want to work in, because I get it, I understand.
Sisters and brothers, friends that I knew and that gone on before us, I made a vow to them that I'm going to stay in this community and make the best of it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it because I know the people. I know the culture out here, and this garden is a sign that we are interested in making sure people understand that they have the power to empower themselves. So that's why I'm passionate about the garden. People's lives are at stake. Their lives, I'm responsible for so many lives in the church, in the community. A lot of people look up to me as a leader, and I try to be a leader not for them, I try to be a leader for God. And then by doing that, I'm going to treat my fellow man right. And so that's what I do every day. I'm here 7 days a week, working in this garden, working in the community, and I am excited about that.
So the access to fresh produce is or shall I say the lack of access to fresh produce is the reason for the existence, is one of the main reasons, one of the pillars for the existence of the Oak Cliff Veggie Project in the first place. I actually live in a part of Oak Cliff where we stay within range of a grocery store that does serve a pretty decent quality of produce, but there are so many other parts of Oak Cliff that do not have that access, and that's one of the things that I noticed. It's a very sporadic thing, the access to fresh produce in the Oak Cliff area, and it is something that definitely needs to change. There are a world of excuses of that the population density is not high enough, the per capita income is not high enough, that people don't, even the idea that people don't want the access, or they wouldn't value the having access to that fresh produce, that if it was there they would not buy it. And I know for a fact, in doing the work with the Veggie Project, with other groups like the Harvest Project, the fact that how many people get lined up even before the onset of the pandemic, the amount of people that would come out simply because we were giving out fresh produce and teaching people about how to grow their own produce is everything opposite to the excuses that have been given to us by the grocery stores and by some of our unfortunately by some of our civic leaders and politicians here about why a grocery store, the access level is not there.
A lot of people in my family, they suffer with like diabetes, heart disease, things like that, and I wanted to find a way that I could help them. And so part of my drive is also to help them get educated, and see that it's actually not that hard to have a healthy diet. There are things that you can eat that are tasty. And so that too is a very big part. There really is a lack of education within our community, I feel. If you go back, in the slave days, the foods that we got was literally the leftovers, right? And it's quite interesting. I just talked to my dad, and he was telling me about how they got their food. And they did farm, would have watermelon and sweet potatoes and things like that, but then they also would have a lot of greasy, pork and things like that as well. And so people don't really know what a healthy diet is. When I go to these communities and I talk to people, some people, they don't even know what fruits and vegetables are. And without a proper diet, that's why we have such high rates in our community of people with heart disease and diabetes, cancers, all of that is because we're not eating a balanced diet, a balanced meal. And so education is very important, and teaching people how to actually cook the foods. I think that's one of the big issues that people have. They might know, okay, I need to eat more vegetables, but vegetables are so boring, so having those practical skills of how you can incorporate it in the foods that you already eat. I also think that there's a stigma with certain foods. Some people, they're like, oh, vegetables, like that's not, oh, I won't eat that, like that's nasty type thing. And there's certain vegetables that are seen as like, that's white people food, or, like we have our categories where we put the different foods. which obviously that's hurting us.
What we are actually battling is not the eradication of food deserts. Food desert is a term that relates to, that literally means that you live either a mile or more away from access to fresh, healthy produce. Now, that is very true. It's sometimes further than that. Like, it's not just a mile. It may be 3 miles or 4 miles for some of the residents of Oak Cliff. And that is, that term, food desert, assumes or implies that that is a natural result of the way of the environment. A desert is just like any other environment. There's forest and there's plains and there's mountain regions and there's deserts. There's that's a naturally occurring thing. The fact that we do not have fresh access to produce within a mile of all of the residents of the Oak Cliff and the southern Dallas sector means that what we are actually fighting is what's called food apartheid, because apartheid is something that is planned, it's something that is perpetrated by a group of people who are in one position and want to oppress and keep another group of people in another position. And that's why we're no longer referring to what's happening as a food desert. We are calling it what it is, and that is a food apartheid.
There is a lack of access to the produce in these communities. When I lived in Oak Cliff, I would go to the grocery store, and the produce that I did see, it was spoiled and mold was growing on them. They didn't have as many varieties available, and I had to actually drive further out. And so I do think that that is a big issue. There are a lot of food deserts, and people will have to travel further to get access to good produce as well. So yeah, that is a very big factor that deals with why they're not eating the produce. People are actually going in and planting their own food and seeing the process. It actually encourages them to eat more fruits and vegetables. I've seen like kids get excited. They see that I made this carrot, and they wouldn't eat vegetables beforehand. But now, since they had a part in it, they're now eating the fruits and veggies. And they get to see that it's actually not that hard. I think a lot of times we think that gardening is difficult, but it really isn't. And, I actually, just yesterday, I was in a different part of town in Oak Cliff, and outside the apartments, people had little gardens outside their apartments. So even if you can't get access to a community garden, you can make like your own planterns and plant some produce for you. And that does motivate you to eat those fruits and veggies because you made it yourself.
Gardening is an art. He liked art, so me watching him experience certain things, like him looking at things and say, oh, why, mommy, I did that. I helped that grow. I helped that live, stuff like that. I helped that come alive. That's how Lacaden looks at crops or like any type of veggie. Anytime he has an apple or an orange or anything that he's eating, if it has the smallest seed in it, he wants to put it on the side in a plastic bag and say, we're going to grow this. I want him to know, even if he's stuck out somewhere, he have a cucumber, he's eating a cucumber, or he's eating a bean, or he find a bean on the ground. There's other ways to not struggle. There's dirt everywhere, there's grass everywhere. If you needed to live in the woods and you go to the store and buy a 99-cent bag of beans or a 50-cent cucumber, throw it in the ground. It's gonna come out to something that you'll be able to eat, So he knows stuff like that. He always say, I'm never gonna be hungry because there's always dirt. There's always sun, there's always water. Nature is life. We can't live without it. We can't live without the food. We can't live without the crops. Somewhere, everywhere, the food that's in the store, they're being, produced just like this. It's just, we have to get it from them. We have to wait. We have to get food from other areas. When you can allow your child to do it at home themselves, experience something new, give them a new trade. My son, for instance, he look at this even, oh, mommy, I can make money off of this. Your child can make money off of growing tomatoes. It's something that they could do. No child is too young to play in dirt. No child is too young to water a plant. It teaches them responsibility. If you sit there and you're not gonna water, I don't tell him you need to water that plant. If you don't notice that it's dying, then you're not responsible. So it's an easy way to teach a child responsibility instead of, oh, I'm gonna get them a dog. I love dogs. But a dog is harder to take care of than a plant. If you can't water a plant and make sure you get enough sun, you can't take care of nothing else. Yourself, another person. If you can't just allow a plant to get sun and water, you won't be responsible to do anything.
When I was a farm teacher, I had some students that were in trouble. See, a lot of institutions want to use their farm as a punishment, or they want to use the outdoors as a punishment. And when you do so, you have a negative side effect to what people believe that is success or what's possible. So this one young lady had been working in a very elite location at this institution and was told that she needed to actually, come work with me. And when she got to the farm, she called her mama and she was down there just going off, talking all kinds of noise, right? And so the mama said, oh, hell no. I sent you to college to work with your head, not your hands. You do not go to college to work with your hand. You go to work with your head. I don't want you out there like that. They equated it to slavery. When you go to the grocery store, shop on the outside where all your farmers would be. Your ranchers for produce, for meats and poultry, and your farmers, for your produce area. I'm not into the dairy and all of that, but I love cheese. I love Bluebell. I will say that. But those are the things that when I go, those are the things I will ingest lightly, not as much. But, your bakery, your things on the outskirts are the better options. I'm not saying the best, but they're the better options. When you go on the inside of the grocery store, now you're talking about a factory that has already taken all the nutrients out and processed. So it's almost, I hate to say it like this, but everything on the inside is like a bowel movement. A factory, a machine has spit it out. It's already been processed. And it's stopping your body from getting those nutrients and processing it. So
basil. And she's given us, Miss Darcy has given us some lemongrass, and we've made some pineapple, basil, and lemongrass tea, which was amazing. My mother-in-law, my son's grandmother, she loves it. And she's suffering right now with a little illness, so it's not minor, it's a major illness. But for me and my son to take things from here that's fresh and bring it to her and, cook it up, and she's comfortable with eating it because she needs that freshness, to watch her enjoying it. Like when we made that tea, she was a whiny baby for the tea. She's like, oh, when you gonna get some more of this stuff to make a tea? Oh, tea, I want some more of that tea, And I told Miss Darcy, my mother-in-law loved it. It soothed her throughout the night because I guess it was tea made from fresh, not from a bag or nothing. She's like, I don't think I want the bag tea anymore.
Cumulative effect of not having access to the quality foods, and then the keeping of people in a certain state, where you have charity programs that exist and that have access to resources and funds, but they can only exist as long as that group of people that they are servicing remain in that depressed and repressed and controlled state.
He wouldn't come outside. He comes outside for this garden. He leaves me and run full speed to come to this garden. Mommy, I gotta go to work. That's what he tells me. He leaves me and I'm looking for him in the house and he's here. So this is where my son is happy. So long as he here, I'm good with it. I'm okay with it. If he leave the house, I know where he's at now. He's here. Oh, he's not far. He's watering these plants. He's watering the food that is the healthiness. He's helping these crops grow so that we can eat good and Miss Darcy can be proud and be like, look what Noodle did. Noodle, look what we did together. He likes teamwork. His thing is teamwork make the dream work. Him plus the sun plus water plus Miss Darcy equals food. That's how he looks at it. That's what he say to me every day. Well, I need Mr. Arce, and Mr. Arce needs me, and our plants need the water. That's how he's 8, but this is how he talks. This is how he speaks to me. And Miss Arce, she can tell you, you know, that it's just, I don't know how to say what it would be like if this wasn't here. This is his entertainment. This is what he wants. So this is coaching him for when he has his own.
Yeah, it's very important to consider what you eat regarding your health, because the majority of the sicknesses and diseases are actually correlated with lifestyle choices that you make. So eating a healthy diet, exercising, getting sunshine, things like that, you actually have a huge control in it. I mean, I don't want to discount the fact that there are some people that they still get conditions that they can't control. They might eat healthy and still get those conditions. But the majority of people, especially in our community, that are suffering, it is because of diet and not getting in, especially enough fruits and vegetables.
I believe it's 50-50. Half of it is the economic lie that people who do not, a person who is not economically affluent, let's say that they are closer to the bottom side of the economic ladder, that they do not value and that they do not spend the same amount of money to feed their family as an economically affluent family. And that simply is not true. The other 50% of it, I believe, is blatant racism, white supremacy that happens within all communities, that is often unseen because there are other things that it can be masked by, i.e. the economic structure, the quote unquote population density, things like that allow them to say, well, this is why we would not set up this is why we didn't want to set up a store then, but now that there are more people that have moved into the area, even though the moving in of those families has moved out certain other families, so the population density didn't actually change, but the look and the so-called economic position of the economic positioning of the people that were there, that live in that area, that is what has changed. And they want to, now they feel like there is value in the purveyors of the food access points. They feel like there is some value to be had in building building a grocery store with access.
To be honest, there's not that many dietitians that are actually helping out in this community. And there's less than 1% of all dietitians that are actually African American as well. And not all of them are doing community work. You know, a lot of them are working in a hospital and things like that. So it's definitely needed. But it is important because you relate to people who look like you, right? I remember when I was doing my internship, I had to follow a dietitian who was Caucasian, and she was seeing an African American, and you know, her talking to them, like she didn't understand what they were talking about, and I can tell there was some frustration in that. And if you don't have an understanding between cultures, if you don't have an understanding, you can't relate, you can't make that impact. And so it is actually very important. That's something that I'm very passionate about, trying to help other people who are African American that want to become dietitians, because it is needed. We need a lot more in the field. I can't do it all, right? The few dietitians that are out there, we can't do it all. We can't see everyone. So it is very important. Healthy foods in our culture. You know, collard greens, that's definitely healthy. Cabbage, that's healthy. You know, okra, that's healthy. But there's other healthy foods too. And, you know, kale, I remember talking about kale before, and how there's this stigma that kale is the white, the white leafy green. But, you know, be adventurous. You know, I always tell my clients, you know, just try new things. You know, you might not like it, but you don't know until you try, you know, and it might be the way that it's cooked. You know, maybe if you add your Southern soul to it, it might be good, you know, so.
multiple donations from the community as well as specific organizations that are helping out. This is not just the Oak Cliff Veggie Project. This is 4 or 5, maybe even more of our partners who have contributed to this particular event. I had a word sitting in this little church over here, St. Luke Presbyterian Church, and it literally was feed the people. And having that kind of faith and having that kind of belief, and also understanding, you know, you do a lot of good when you obey. I finally obeyed, and we started basically as myself, my family, that would be my husband and my 4 kids, and we brought some tables out here into the parking lot here, and we bought some food from a food co-op called Bountiful Baskets. And by putting that all together, basically with our money and with some of the donations from this church, we took some signs out on the street, said free produce, and invited people to come and take some of the food that we had to offer them. So actually, that's where the food distributions is what we have been doing. The last 2 years, we started working with, I would say, 40 people a month. Since March, we went to doing this every week. Basically because of COVID, but also because we kind of felt like we needed to do something different and add to it. So now, starting in March, we do this type of event at 4 different locations. And at those 4 different locations, we have a garden. We recently opened up 2 more areas to do a food distribution, and in 2021, those are going to be places where we add some additional gardens. So the basic idea is we're going to help you with your food needs, but we want the community to come together over food and work these gardens, have everybody talking to each other, okay? And ultimately share the produce that we are growing. The pandemic has actually exposed, I like to call it the dark underbelly of this country, in that there are a lot of people that we hear about it, but now we are seeing it. There's a lot of people that are living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And I say that 3 times because there's some people that have 2 and 3 jobs. And with things changing because of the pandemic, and you've got a loss of income, you've got a loss of education and all, this has meant, okay, where do I eat? So we are trying to help people, again, by sharing food. That's going to help you with whatever little dollars that you do have to maybe go buy your medicine, okay? Pay your rent, all right? Whatever else you need to do with your dollars, we can assist you to shift those dollars to something else because you do have something to eat. So much diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure in this community. We're hoping that we can prick a few minds to change their ways. I always like to say, fried chicken, you got a franchise, you're so entitled to that, right? But we need some alternatives in this community so that you don't feel compelled to have to go to fast food all the time in order to get something to eat.